What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today's reaction video is why the United States has two Carolinas, North Carolina and South Carolina. I wonder if he's done a video on the Dakotas.
Yeah, wonder.
Because there's two Dakotas as well, isn't there?
Yeah, and why is West Virginia?
Ooh, and Virginia's as well. Let us know in the comments if we should check them ones out. I don't know if he's done them or not, though.
I don't know.
But there may be a video out there somehow.
If not, we've just made him ideas.
But there may be an interesting story, because I assume North and South Carolina was the first one of that kind.
Maybe they were one Carolina at one point.
Maybe, because obviously it was a 13 states, which were the original 13 states, wasn't it? Or the founding 13 states on that side when it was colonised. Maybe it was one Carolina, or maybe it's just that was the first one to be put north and south.
Yeah.
We'll find out. He's going to tell us. Geography with Jeff, I believe it is.
Yes.
Go and check the channel out, but what should we do?
Wait.
Would really appreciate if you check this video out first, and let's check it out and find out why. You ready?
Yes.
Let's get into it. Why there's two Carolinas, what we got.
North Carolina and South Carolina.
I've just realised. Do you remember on a different video?
Yeah.
There was a map, and I asked about the different colours of blue.
Yeah.
I think when they answered shallow, they're talking about the blue around.
Oh, yeah. We're talking about
I'm talking
really
about
light,
the really bright, glowy blue.
That could be really shallow, though.
Yeah.
But then surely it would be around the edge here,
Yeah,
wouldn't
but it's
it?
not going to be I don't think that's shallow. Like Hawaii and that. It's not shallow, is it? It still goes deep.
That's not Hawaii, though, is it?
No, but
I know. Yeah, let us know in the comments.
Yeah.
But maybe it is a massive
But I'm
shallow
thinking
body of
It would
water.
make sense for it to be shallower around the
It
coast.
would, maybe. Let us know in the comments again, please.
Yeah.
Two states entirely connected within a single country that share basically the same name. At one point, the two Carolinas were combined in a single province within the colonial
There you
holdings
go.
of the King of England known as Carolina. But the two were split up, and we've had two Carolinas ever since.
Carolina.
Here's why there's a North Carolina and a South Carolina. Hello and welcome to Geography by Jeff. Now, a little while ago, we visited North Dakota and South Dakota to determine why we have two
We need to find out why we've got two Dakotas then. Let us know if you want to see it.
Dakotas in the place of a single territory simply and sufficiently named Dakota. And in the midst of that episode, I got a lot of comments asking me to prepare a similar video on the Carolinas. And so I did it. It's a fascinating story because, unlike the Dakotas, the Carolinas split happened well before the United States ever existed. And we're going to explore how that happened in today's video. The history of the North Carolina and South Carolina split is rooted in the history of how colonies even came to be colonies in the first place.
Okay.
So it's worthwhile to revisit the way in which England handed out charters and mandates for the establishment of territory within North America.
Yeah, I don't know how they
But make
picked.
no mistake
idea.
here, North Carolina and South Carolina started out their existence as a single territory called Carolina.
Yeah.
Back in the 1500s,
Massive as well.
the English monarchy was realizing that it was falling behind in the exploration and expansion of its empire in the New World. Of course, the Americas weren't new and had actually been inhabited by thousands of different peoples for thousands of years. But that's a whole other story.
Yeah.
But England quickly realized that if it was going to compete with the likes of Spain, it was going to need to start establishing its own colonies in North America. And so, it began issuing charters to various groups of people who wanted to establish settlements. The first English colony was established at Roanoke, which was founded in 1585. Unfortunately for England's first attempt, the colony didn't last. By 1590, the entire settlement was found completely abandoned.
Oh,
To this
wow.
day, nobody truly knows what happened to the nearly 120 colonists. But England
very
persisted and
random.
began
It
issuing
is.
more charters for more colonies. By the middle of the 1600s, colonies were found up and down the east coast of the modern United States. This would include the early province of Carolina, which was founded in 1629 and consisted of the land from the Albemarle Sound in present-day North Carolina to the St. Johns River in the south, just below the current Florida-Georgia state line.
Yeah, big,
So
big
quite a bit
area.
more than the North Carolina and South Carolina we know today. Unfortunately for Carolina, the colony would ultimately fail. A lack of funding and resources prevented it from growing and ultimately competing with the colonies of Virginia and Massachusetts.
Okay.
And at the time, England found more value in its Caribbean colonies than it did.
Maybe the sea is just that colour.
It might just be
It
that
might
colour.
just be that colour. Again, it might just be shallow water. It might actually just be shallow water.
It's just weird, though. It's...
I think it might just be a large body of shallow water, not just a little bit of shallow
Yeah,
water.
but let's just get rid of the water then, because that looks so good. Make it all shallow.
Oh yeah, it's gonna make the whole ocean shallow.
Yeah.
Good luck with that.
It in Carolina,
Looks so
but the
pretty.
colony wouldn't
It
stay
does.
gone for too long. Carolina was not a hugely successful start for the area that we would today call North and South Carolina. But it was an important first step towards the establishment of the two states we know today. But
Okay.
before we get into how two states came from one colony, If you're enjoying
Same
this
here.
video, hit that
Appreciate it.
subscribe button.
We're nearly
More fun geography
157,000.
videos are just a single click away. After the colony of Carolina failed, the entire region was left in a state of limbo. King
Okay.
Charles I, who issued the original charter, was executed in 1649, and the original retainer of the charter, Sir Robert Heath, had fled to France.
Oh,
This
wow.
left the entire region without any sort of owner or occupier. Heath's heirs did try to claim the land for themselves, but the new king, Charles II, ruled the claim invalid. On March 24th, 1663, Charles II issued a new charter to a group of 8 English noblemen called the Lord Proprietors,
Do you know what's mad?
granting them the land.
Is
What?
in this time the technology was minuscule. There weren't any phones. It was literally the only way I imagine they got a message across was 20 days travel on boat to this place. How do you actually rule? Do you know what I mean? How do you manage this? Like, nah, that's not your land. When it's 20 days, I don't know if it is 20 days, but it's a very long time in the sailing boats back then away. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get
Is
you.
it not mad that there actually was a rule over it? Do you get me? Is that not like what it's like in today's where you can video call and you got someone there, you hop on a plane, you're there in 5
Unless
hours.
there's somebody though that's there on his behalf.
True, very true, but it's just mad, isn't it?
Yeah, but they made it work back then. We're so
It's weird. Isn't it?
rely on things.
Oh no,
You think,
100%.
They just cope with that. So
But for him to pass a message on, it potentially takes. I'm making 20 days up because I think it is an extremely long time. But on a
it's
sailboat,
5 years.
because he had no engines really, did he? It's a sailboat, I think. So if it takes 20 days to pass a message on, just to say, oh yeah, jail that person over there, so that's a long time. It's a month, nearly a month. That's mad, isn't it?
Yeah.
Let us know in the comments what you think. Is that not mad?
Yeah.
Formerly known as Carolina,
It's like I'll
as a
message you
reward for
off.
their faithful support of his efforts to regain the throne of England. And during this transition, it was renamed to the province of Carolina. The charter granted the Lord Proprietors title to all of the land from the southern border of the Virginia colony at 36 degrees north to the land at around 31 degrees north. The goal here was to provide a buffer between the successful English colony of Virginia from the Spanish colony in present-day Florida,
Okay.
and prevent any northern expansion by the Spaniards. Now, of the 8 Lord Proprietors, only one would take much interest in the new province, Lord Shaftesbury, and he had big plans for the province. Shaftesbury, along with famed English philosopher John Locke, would set about attempting to create their vision for a utopian society in the province of Carolina,
Looks
known
nice.
as the Grand Model. Really, this was simply a plan for how cities and towns would be laid out, with a particular emphasis to be resistant to fires, due to London almost burning down in 1666. It also factored in things such as public health and
I thought it was
safety,
1066.
land use,
Right,
and
London.
urban aesthetics.
No.
That's
Oh,
Battle
800
Hastings.
00 1066
Battle
Battle
Hastings.
Hastings. You probably haven't.
Sorry, we are honestly, if history in our elementary school.
Yeah, but I always remember
But Jesus,
1066.
so many things. The Great Fire of London. That's
Yeah,
it.
I only remember it because there is the ad, and it's like, oh, 800 00
Let me tell you something funny about the Great Fire.
1066.
It's not funny about the Great Fire of London.
Oh, you just.
I mean, something funny that we learned about it was I think we were in year 6, so we were about 10.
Yeah.
And all I can remember about learning about it
Yeah.
is we had to pretend that we were right, that it happened.
Yeah,
We were there.
it did happen. Oh,
Yeah,
you
but,
mean that
like,
you're
we were
there?
there,
Okay, yeah.
and that we were writing to our families to say, like, to someone to
Yeah.
say that there's been a big fire, blah blah blah, and we got to get tea bags and put it all over our paper to make it look like it was
Like an
version.
old version map. Oh yeah, did you ever never have a thing at school where you had to make a treasure map?
Yeah,
And you
yeah,
used
you
to teabag
teabagged
it.
it.
Yeah.
Did you?
Oh. Oh, you dirty.
And then
All
we did
things we
make a
take for
nice
granted
fire out of tissue
Oh, there you
paper.
go. There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, well done. High five. Did you do well on that one?
I was 10, I
I'm
don't
still
know.
ashamed by
They
you by that
didn't-
comment
they didn't
though.
grade it. Oh, yeah, I'm getting that. Give me that.
But in 1666, were revolutionary in terms of city and town planning. But while the Lord Proprietors had big goals for Carolina, the reality is that the best laid plans always go awry. And in the case of Carolina, it was destined to eventually be split in two.
Getting closer north and south.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing to know about the split between North Carolina and South Carolina is that there was no single event that caused the divide. Instead, it was really more of a slowly simmering divide that eventually boiled over. That said, we can point to a couple different events that really spurred the division along. The first is the Tuscarora War in 1711 between the British colonial settlers and the native indigenous peoples of the area. The Tuscarora tribe existed in what is today North Carolina for a long time before European settlers invaded their land.
Yeah.
And, as one might expect, they didn't take too kindly to having their lands stolen from them.
You wouldn't,
More
would
to
you?
that point, because the province of Carolina was ruled by 8 separate Lords Proprietors, the treaties and deals they struck with the tribe were often overruled, ignored, or broken by another lord.
Oh,
This
wow.
inevitably would lead to friction and eventually war. The Tuscarora would ultimately lose, but it would build contention in the Carolina colony between those in the north who pulled in more resources to defend the land, and those in the south who felt like it really wasn't their problem.
Okay.
You see, the northern part of the Carolina province and the southern part were always a bit separate. Charlestown, known today as Charleston, was the capital of the colony, but the northern area governed themselves independently and had their own major cities in Albemarle and Cape Fear. In fact, both the north and the south had their own governors well before the formal split. Due to the tensions between the two halves, the Lords Proprietors' inability to effectively govern the territory, and the burgeoning wealth by the southern part of the colony, the king reclaimed the southern part of Carolina for the crown in 1719, and left the northern part for the Lords Proprietors.
Makes sense.
And thus, North Carolina and South Carolina were officially separated. Today, North Carolina and South Carolina are 2 completely separate states within the
Lost
United
a lot of
States.
land.
And over the last
Yes.
300 or so years, the two have grown considerably. North Carolina today is home to a little over 10.5 million people, and South Carolina has about 5.2 million people. Of the 2 states, North Carolina has become the dominant economic engine, with cities such as Charlotte and Raleigh leading in terms of GDP over South Carolina's largest city, Charleston, and largest metropolitan area, Greenville. But regardless, the two are very prosperous as of today, with each growing in population by about
that's
10%
good.
between 2010
growth.
and 2020. And of course, because the single province is now 2 separate US states, it means that each gets their own representation in the US Congress. Both North Carolina and South Carolina each get 2 US senators. And North Carolina has 14 representatives, and South Carolina has 7 representatives in the US House of Representatives. But in another timeline, perhaps, these 2 states may have entered the Union as a single state simply named Carolina. The
Not
Carolinas
less.
have a fascinating history that predates the US as a whole. While our episode on the Dakotas was largely about US politics, today we have 2 Carolinas largely because of English politics. And because both were independent before the US even became its own country, there's very little chance of them ever unifying today.
Makes sense.
I hope you enjoyed learning why we
There
have
you
2
go.
Carolinas.
I honestly would never have expected that.
I didn't know
A
that.
bit of history for us as well, obviously, with the invasion stuff. Like, you learn a little bit more,
Yeah.
don't you? Smash that button if you enjoyed, guys. Let us know if you want us to do a Dakotas. Potentially more personal to people. I don't know when it was, but obviously it was when the United States was fully formed. So potentially you guys know about it a bit more, and we'll learn a little bit.
Yes.
Smash that like button, guys. Smash that subscribe button, and what should we do?
Have a fantastic day.
And we will see you, legends, in the next one. Peace.